Welcome everybody back twice tonight. Fucking screw YouTube. People know you hit 1,000 subscribers, you can then set up streams on your phone. I set this stream up on my phone and OBS accessed it, and YouTube told me to go fuck myself. So, yeah, thank you for your patience. This is why we're here. This is why we're doing this, because YouTube's an asshole. Tonight we have been joined by the son of a dog. We have been joined by Sam. So, Sam, I'm just going to fix a wee thing in the chat. If you want people, let people know who you are. I'm pretty sure I put your links in the description. So, hopefully that's transferred across. So, yeah, give yourself a wee intro, man.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks again for having me here. My name's Sam. I run the YouTube channel The Son of Dog. I'm a relatively new YouTuber. I've only been doing it for about 4 months now. And I'm just trying to, get to know more people in the community. I've been an atheist for about 3 years and change, almost 4 years, I think, at this point. Yeah, I'm just glad to be here and connecting with people. So I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, you've really bounced up, man. Like, if anyone's seen the numbers, well over 1,000 subscribers. I think you've only 25 videos. I think something like that.
I think I don't even have 20 yet. I think I just did my 18th or 19th on
Yeah,
Friday.
I hate you. I have like 300 videos. I hate you ever so slightly, just a little bit, But what we'll do is, what we'll do is we'll start with the normal question I always go with, and that's sort of what brought you to the internet. It's, there's a story there, there's something there. Obviously, we'll do the deconversion and stuff, but, what made you feel the need to join the internet and take your atheism, your wanting to tell people, what brought you here?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess it kind of all started with the beginning of, I won't go ahead and tell my deconversion story since you'll ask that later, but it does kind of start with that. Because
no, I'm not structured. Wing it, man. This is what we do here. We wing it. Go.
Well,
go.
in the process of my deconversion, I of course, turned to YouTube as a resource. I started watching a lot of debates.
Yeah.
For my background, I was a fundamental Southern Baptist for 20 years. I'm 31, deconverted about 20 when I was 28, 27, 28. So since I was 8 years old, when I got saved, I was a fundamental Southern Baptist Christian. And I started seeing these YouTube, videos like debates, things like, atheist comedy stuff. And all these things really helped me in my journey, like a lot, because I'm an actor and a musician at heart. I love entertaining. And so like humor is a great way to get my attention. And I think that is what stuck out a lot on YouTube to me. Some of the creators I stumbled across, and it really when I had been an atheist for a few years, I was like, you know what, this is important. It's important to believe. Well, I guess to preface this, I started really thinking about how important this change was for me, and how I was so grateful that my mind was changed, and that I got to the place where I allowed myself to examine my own beliefs critically. And so that's when I decided that like this is not something that I can just keep to myself, because I know people around me, everyone around me. I mean, I live in the southern United States, so everyone, I live in the Bible Belt, so everyone around me is pretty much Christian, to some degree, either culturally or fundamental, more than likely. And so I figured, it's life-changing, because I want to believe things for good reasons. I want to believe true things, and I wanted to share that with people, and I wanted to get people to think like I did. And part of that was, again, full circle, going back to YouTube and kind of giving back to the same community that helped me, and also with hopes that I would reach other people as well.
Yeah, but no, that's I encountered a few people that just, the YouTube thing is, it's where entertainment is going, right? Which is good.
Right.
The problem that with YouTube is it's everybody's available. So as much as we have the YouTube channels out there that we try to do what we're doing, including your own and stuff like that, there isn't enough of us. If you type in Christian, you're going to get a hell of a lot more channels. They're going to be better funded. There's going to be more there. The church donates. Catholic Church, richest fucking organization in the world. There's the support there. So definitely, if you can make contact, if you have something to our content, and if you have something to contribute, and you feel definitely, man. So we're glad to have you here. And looking at all the musical instruments in the background, very glad to have you here. Like, you know, going through a wee musical, like, teaching my daughter music at the minute. We've had AC/DC, and this weekend with Pink Floyd and stuff like that. So
I saw that on your Twitter, and I was like, Dark Side, great album.
She picked it. I give her the case. She picked it. So musicians is great, and it's also good to find people. As I said to you before we come on, we do all fall under the umbrella. And on Tangelo's vlog, Dave said it once, I've said it once. On Tangelo, come in as your own account, or Dave, block the sock. Having someone that has another side of a skill, you know, we all fall under the umbrella, as I say, with the atheist, but having someone with another set of skills, something more entertaining, something that we can all latch onto, you know, if you all latch onto, but you're having a bad day, you know, and you're doing maybe a music stream or something like that, or you're talking about this, or you're just jamming, and it's we don't always have to sit around and talk about atheism and God. This is just what's brought us together, and comedy, as you mentioned. We have Blatant Atheist, who's in Hawaii, so he's probably not watching, but his channel is Atheism Comedy. Right. And it's just fucking brilliant if you haven't seen him. Like, he's just, you know, shout out to thank you very much, on Tangelo. Thank you. So, yeah, you were Christian for a long period of your life.
Yeah.
Was there something that, as you say, you came to YouTube, was it growing older and questioning God, or was it, you know, sometimes there's maybe a death in the family, or someone recovers from alcoholism, or there's something, you know, that triggers a deconversion, or was it just, as I say, getting older in life? And because you're in the Bible Belt, it's not like you're short of an echo chamber with people telling you that it's definitely real.
You know, and my wife's family, they're all fundamental Baptists. The thing that I think that got me to the point of really starting to question was I was at a point in my life, and I guess I'm still kind of in that point, not so much like in the same headspace, but I was at a point in my life when I had the luxury to examine my beliefs. And what I mean by that is, I mean, like, I wasn't so caught up with the day-to-day, with having to worry about, you know, what job I was working, you know, things like that, where I had time to be inside my own head and be like, why do I believe this? Is this even true? What, you know, what is the reason? What is the method I'm using to come to these truths that I had in my head and things that I believed for so long? And I was just at the point where I was like, fuck it, I'm going to look into it. I'm going to examine it, and I'm going to look at it from both sides. And that's why I think I really started with debates. I did debate in high school for 3 years. And so that was a big thing for me too. And it's something I do want to get into eventually. And I kind of went from there, and that led me into like looking at apologetics, counter apologetics. Epistemology is a huge thing that I'm into, that I've been into.
Oh man, you're gonna have a great time. You're gonna have a great time. There's a lot of us like this, you know. Philosophy is, you know, there's a few of us that would find it quite exciting. Epistemology, ontology, and things like that. There, and, you know, there's other people that are like, I can't even spell that. Go fuck yourself. So, you know.
Yeah. So to answer your question, it was just at the point in my life when I was like, I believed these things for so long, but I never questioned why I believed them. You know, I knew what I believed. I just didn't know why. And, you know, I had a death in the family. You know, my mom died when I was 18, and I did a video about that on my channel. But that wasn't the reason I deconverted, but it was something that I wanted to do a video, because looking back on it, I was like, that was fucked up. Because like my mom pretty much committed like religiously motivated suicide because she refused medical treatment. Oh, yeah. So like that was something that I could look back on and be like, there is a real danger in religious belief, especially any unjustified belief, whether it be religious or not, you know, whether it's a conspiracy theory or anything like that. There is real danger to be found in a lot of religious belief, you know, and I of course I preface it in the video saying, just because you're religious doesn't mean you're going to kill yourself or anything like that. But believing things for bad reasons gets you down a dangerous road.
Yeah, with the religious connotation, there is an awful lot, as you say, with the supernatural and things like that. And God's going to heal you. We don't need to go to church. And from a personal point of view, I personally seen a church across the road from where I used to work, and they convinced the lady not to go to hospital for cancer treatment, and she died. And lucky for them, she left all her money to them, so they can afford a new bus to go around and pick the kids up from school and take them there and tell them that evolution isn't real. It was wonderful. It was just... very frustrating.
Oh God, I'd love to see it, man. Yeah, my mom died of cancer, and she, she laid down, and she really. The sad thing was she really believed it. That's why she did it, because no one's gonna, you know, just give up and put it in God's hands if they didn't, weren't honestly convinced of it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I came to terms with when I was deconverting too. I went through the angry atheist phase like everyone goes through, but then I realized, no one was lying to me. If they're, if they believe it's true, it's not a lie. It's just misguidance.
Yeah, I hate the word indoctrination, but it does get flung about an awful lot, and it's a very strong word, but it is what it is. As you say, it's not like they're trying out of their way to convince you of something they believe is not real. They actually believe that it's real, and a lot of people do is, I'm trying to save your soul. They genuinely think that you're going to burn in hell. But as you say, Mum, or you said about your mum, she lay down and accepted it, but that gives her there's heaven afterwards, so there is. I feel that also takes away from the joy that we have in life. Things that we enjoy because they're rare. If you had it every day, it wouldn't be fun. It wouldn't have the same connotation with it. It wouldn't have the same enjoyment with it. It would just become the norm, and who wants to live forever? Definitely not me. No. But your thoughts on that, taking this life that we have and making the most of what we have on this life.
Yeah, well, you get that a lot with, with theists when they're, and I've heard this a lot just in person, having discussions with people too. I'm a very in-person kind of guy. I'm not super active on social media, and that's just because of years of lurking and not really being active. And it's been a hard brain switch to try to get out there and put myself out there, because I'm kind of an introvert, even though I love entertaining people.
Yeah. Oh man, you're definitely gonna fit in with all of us here. This is just
But I hear that. But like you said, I hear this a lot from people when they'll say, "Well, I've even had people say, "Well, what's the point of living? If pretty much go ahead and kill yourself then. If there's no after this." I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense at all to me. I think
very
Matt
nihilistic.
is an example of well, then I should just drive my car to the junkyard right now because there's no use for it anymore.
Yeah,
no.
Why wash yourself? You're gonna wash yourself tomorrow. Let's walk around in a busted car and stinky and jump off a bridge because we're nihilists. It just doesn't work like that.
Right, and it's like they can't comprehend it because they subscribe to the prescribed method of meaning and purpose coming from an authoritative entity. This is what you're supposed to do. This is your life. This is your purpose. Whereas I think I even commented on an old high school friend's Facebook post about that, that it's beautiful because if you don't think that way, because it is your own meaning that you give yourself. And I even said, even theists do this. They just codify it through, well, this is what the Bible wants me to do, so I'm going to choose to do that. They still are making their own choice.
Yes.
There's plenty of theists out there that don't choose to live the way the Bible would prescribe them to live, or whatever their pastor says. So they're still making the same choice either way, just like as atheists we do, when we make purpose and meaning for our own lives,
Well, that's exactly it. It's I personally, as I've mentioned on the channel, I know a guy who is I work with, who is from Poland, who's now living over here, and he moved over here to get away with everything that was going on over there. He was big into his drugs, big into this, and he was stealing. He did time in prison and stuff, and he gives all of that to God. And he's told me the story of him moving across country, trying a few different countries, starting off with nothing, and now he's over here. He has a wife. He's just back from paternity leave after having a third kid. New car on. His life's great, and it's all down to fucking Jesus. It's all down to God. And it's like, man, you did that. And he.
Yeah.
The fact that he can't even accept all this hard work that he did, couldn't have done without God. And it's like, no man, you did do that. That's all on you. And that goes the opposite way as well, as you say. The things that they have chose to do, they have chosen from the Bible, but they still chose themselves to do it. They just don't want to take. With shifting the blame comes without taking responsibility of actually what you're doing as well. So if you're shifting the blame for the bad stuff, you have to give away the good stuff as well. And I feel that that's a
Yeah.
shame. Another thing that religion takes away from people is plane crashed. God save me. Pilot did. Had an accident. Got out of hospital. God save me. Doctor did.
Yeah, I do. I had a thoughts and prayers video that goes into that a lot too, where it's, and anything that happens that's bad, it's not God's fault. That's just either the devil or, that's just something that's going to happen. But if it's good, then it's, God gets the credit, and I think that it's a blind spot that a lot of theists have, that they don't see that if God's in control with everything, then he is responsible for everything in your worldview,
Yeah, you have to give him everything, and
right.
As human beings, we are social creatures. As human beings, we struggle and things like that. And I find that the church gives a community. And it's always been there, and regardless of what form and what religion, there's always been that community that goes with religion. And as human beings, again, we are very fond as a hierarchy and things like that. And again, religion has that hierarchy. We do like that sort of situations, is what I'm trying to put us in. And they've done studies. Community is where that comes from. Community is what helps us socially. Community is what helps our mental health. It doesn't matter if you've a community of people that like to go out and fucking take pictures of squirrels. If there's a load of yous are all happy taking pictures of squirrels.
Right. I think that's a lot of where a lot of people, including myself and my wife, were, when we were Christians for a lot of, the time when we were Christians, is that we were into it and didn't really question it because it was part of our community, and it was, I guess, a kind of a built-in defense mechanism. I won't say it's a malicious defense mechanism on their part, because it's something that they don't intend, but it's something that it's scary to purposely go down a thought pattern that could extricate yourself from that in the future. It's like, well, if I deconvert, I'm not a Christian anymore, then you lose that part of the community. You may lose some friends, you may lose even family, and I'm grateful that, that hasn't happened, to me, as far as like my close friends and things like that.
Yeah.
So, and it turns out that, it's crazy. And I was thinking about this at work today, is that there's so many people around you that until you're an atheist, you don't realize we're atheists all along, or are atheists as well, and it's just because, you never had a conversation about it, or you never talked about it. Yeah. And
people like to fit in prescriptive religion. I can't remember the exact term of it, but they've done studies on it where people say that they are Christian, especially over in the UK and things like that, where we would, people say they are Christian to fit in. It's cultural Christian. You're in the Bible Belt, so it's an awful lot stronger over there, So when they're a Christian, they're going to fucking church every Sunday. Over here, they don't care. Get the kids christened and get married in church, and someone died, and that's about it. That makes you a Christian, because they haven't taken that extra step, and they haven't asked themselves these questions, and they haven't asked themselves, why do I believe what I believe?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what it came down to for me. It just became, I got in that headspace where I could actually look at my beliefs and figure out if I had good reason for them, and I found out that I didn't. I came to the conclusion probably over about a 6-month period, that I didn't have any good grounding or foundational methodology for what I believed. I started with, the first thing that I think piqued my interest was the problem of evil. It was a thing that, I looked at and I was like, yeah, this is a problem. It wasn't ultimately the strongest argument for me to leave Christianity, but it was, I think divine hiddenness was probably the strongest argument for me. I did a video like a couple weeks about that too. That was, I think, ultimately the strongest thing that made me leave. But really, even beyond that, it was just the astounding lack of evidence. I think that was the... there wasn't really like a formal argument.
Yeah.
Because like I even say in my divine hiddenness video, you don't need, I don't need to make this argument against something that there's no good evidence for. But if you want to make a formal argument against the existence of God, sure, and I'm I guess what you would call, I guess, a weak atheist, or I'm not going to posit that there is no God. I'm just
agnosticism and all that there, and the definition of a word. You're you. That's one thing I find is everybody is fucking grey. There's nobody black and white. Labels are just descriptors. It's better to talk to the person, which is, we've had a couple of conversations, but this is why I do this. It's easier and better to get a a feedback on what you are and where you are and why you believe what you believe by talking to the person, getting feedback, seeing your body language and stuff like that. It's better to get that input because you get a true representation of the actual person. One thing I wanted to ask you is, you did say that you've, I would say, recently left Christianity, a couple of years or so. You have a wife, you have a family.
I'm married. Yeah.
Yeah, her side of the family is very fundamentalist, as you said, or well, very Baptist, as you said. Is she an atheist? Is she in the midst of? Did you go through conversion together?
We deconverted at the same time, but separately, without us even knowing.
Brilliant! Yeah.
It worked. Honestly, it worked out so great, and I was terrified the first time. I remember the first time I was like, I'm not. This is a stupid little act of like atheist defiance. I was like, I'm not gonna ask the blessings on this fucking meal. You know?
Yeah, rub-a-dub-dub. Thanks for the grub.
Thank you, God. You know. And so I remember because we always used to sit down at dinner, hold hands, and pray. And I remember she was like, "Oh, you don't want to pray?" And I was like, "No, we made the meal. I'm thanking us for doing it, you know." and then she was just kind of like, "Oh," and I was like, "Oh, maybe she's not going to be so upset about it." And then, a couple of weeks later, we have more talks, and honestly, yeah, she had actually been having doubts way longer than I have, and because she was raised longer in the church than I was, because I started when I was 8, but she was her whole life,
right? Like
her whole life, And so I guess she had just.
Was that reason that you started at 8? Was it your granny and granda started taking you, or your family as a whole found God?
My mom, I was raised just by my mom, single mother.
I do the single moms.
Yeah, she took me to church when I was 8 because she started feeling like she needed to get back to church. She was raised as a Christian as well, but she kind of went through a rebellious stage, from the church in her like 20s and 30s. But then she came back and found God again and became a super Christian. And I mean a super Christian. Like, she was very
Bible basher.
Very zealous. Yes, very zealous. And for the 10 years, she was a born again Christian again when I was 8. From the time from 8 to 18, because there was like a 10-year period of time that this was going on, and it's
a very important 10-year period of time as well.
Because she died when I was 18, and I became a Christian at 8, and I was a Christian for another 10 years after she died. But she just got increasingly more religious with that as the time went on, and it didn't push me away from the church. It just made me sad for her. Like I didn't think anything bad of Christianity or anything. In fact, I even told people when they asked me, about my mom, I was like, no, it strengthened my faith, like it strengthened my faith, the hope of heaven, the fact that, she was such a strong Christian and now she's in heaven, it was all the kind of BS answers that I look back on now. I was like, that's so ridiculous, I can't believe that I thought that,
The coping mechanisms that we have as a society, especially in Western society, is just messed up, It really, really is messed up, and it should be a happy time and things like that there. And my auntie, who's a Christian, she did not want to get married in the church or buried by the minister and have the service in the church because he Presbyterian, you're going to hell, and messed up on my grandfather. She gave him dog's abuse, and then he didn't do a great job on my granny. And when she went, she was surrounded by her grandkids in her house, up the stairs in the bed, and the kids were in the other bed beside her jumping up and down. That's the way she wanted to go. It was happy, it was round, and it's a better way to go. She was surrounded by her family, and she's surrounded by the sounds of happy kids.
Right.
Now, all right, they weren't there at the exact moment, but you get, she died later that night, but you get my point. That was the last thing she was surrounded by, and that's a good point. But as I say, as a species, as a society, it's always thoughts and prayers. Sure. God works in mysterious ways. They're in heaven now. They're in a better place. It's a shifting of having to deal with it. People don't want to deal with it, and Christians, I think, just put the blinkers on. They don't want to look over the reality. It's just, this is what I can do as the bare minimum to get through life, and if I shift everything to this guy, I don't have to worry about half as much shit.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's part of the reason why I was stuck in that headspace for so long, because I just had, the blinders on, and I was just moving forward in my life. And I didn't allow myself time to really think about it. And not to say that everyone who will allow themselves time will come to the same conclusions I do, because of course that's not true. You have apologists, but for me, it was very serendipitous that, again, me and my wife both went through that process at the same time, and we both came out at the other end, and we look back on it, and it's just wild. It's just wild to think about the things that we used to believe, and the things that we were convinced of, and yeah, thoughts and prayers. That's a big one. That's a big one here. Every time something bad happens, it's thoughts and prayers.
Standard reaction. That's what you say. It makes it easy. It's like, what do you say to someone when their mother dies?
Yeah.
Oh, you go and you give them a hug. You go round dressed in black, and you say thoughts and prayers, and then you go home and you can be happy with yourself because you've done your bit.
Sure.
And
I get it. I don't get offended when people say that anymore, or like God bless you or anything like that.
No.
I'm like, I know what they mean. Like I'm a big enough person to be like, yeah. Unless you're doing it really like snarkily or passive aggressively, like I'm not gonna be like mad about that.
Yeah, I go out of my way to make friends with Christians. So there's a few that has been arriving tonight from me jumping around a few Christian channels there quite recently. It's nice to get other people and have these conversations. I think one of them mentioned he subscribed to you tonight, so you've got another Christian subscriber as well. But
oh wow, thank you so much.
I don't know. It's difficult whenever you're going and you're on the outside and you're trying to talk to someone on the inside. And I don't want to fucking quote the Bite model. And there is someone that's making me think that in the chat that said Christianity is a cult. And to a point, you can make that argument. But people it's just everywhere, man. And when you're looking back in it, it's harder to fight from the inside out. They don't understand. And it takes sometimes, a kick in the ass or a push or...
Yeah.
We need more people like you. We need more people putting out content. We need to build the community as a whole. Our voices, moving towards political side. Did you find yourself at the age of 28 becoming more progressive after you left?
Well, so I actually kind of stayed out of politics for a while. Like I probably didn't even have politics on my radar until well after college. I was just apolitical. It didn't concern me. And it wasn't until I was probably only a few years out from actually deconverting, probably in my mid to late 20s, that I even started to really get political. Mm-hmm. And then when I did, I was like, you know what, this is important too. Because I think another drawback of feeling that you have an afterlife and you have an immortality to look forward to is the fact that you can kind of, it lessens, like you said, it lessens the importance of the here and now. And it kind of, you kind of zoom out and you're like, well, this is just a blip, fuck the earth, fuck, whatever's going on politically, because, it's not going to matter anyway. I'm going to heaven, live forever, And I realized that after I realized that was not the case, I was like, no, this is stupid. I should be involved with things I care about, and I should actually look into things that, are good causes or good movements and support these things and try to be active, because it's the only thing we can do. Like you said, life is unfair and life can suck. Death happens. It's inevitability. And, in order to combat that, the only thing we can do is our fucking best, like we can do what we can do, and that's in the here and now, and that's with action. That's why, I guess, full circle back to thoughts and prayers, that's why it's so insane to me that, there's people that really do believe that will work when they actually have the options and the ability to make real change in the here and now, whether it's politically, socially, or, just in their own personal lives, taking action or taking responsibility for something that they can do, even if it's small. I think, again, like what you said earlier, it robs us of not only our credit for things we do, but it kind of absolves us of a lot of responsibility we have too, because we're always shifting it onto some kind of a invisible higher being and saying, well, it's all in his hands anyway. And that's just kind of like saying, well, fuck it then, and I think that's kind of a laissez-faire, I don't give a shit attitude that, I think is good in a personal way. Like, I don't want to let anything really rock my boat, but it's also kind of bad in a societal way. Like, we should care about things that are important, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
but you see
we
that
should-
swings both ways, because it's you know,
Yeah.
that idea of, you know, as you say, leaning on the Bible sort of morals and shit like that. They've got, this is me and this is it and this is what I'm doing. But there's so many people aligning with that single thought that there is that it creates that fucking evil tribe that of single mentality, but on a mass scale. You know, we're all out for ourselves, provided that you think the same as me, I'll help you. But we're only out for ourselves. You know, it's...
Yeah, that actually brings up another thing that I had a friend at work. It's actually a guy that I recently... I did epistemology. I did some street epistemology on him about a year ago. And he recently, just a couple months, told me that he's no longer a Christian and he's an atheist because of our initial conversations, which I thought was awesome. Again, further proof that, like, actually asking friendly, you know, questions that, you know, can get to the foundations of what you believe and why, instead of just being like, do you know the Bible is like full of contradictions and stuff? You know, like, obviously you can go that route, and that may work for some people, but my method is more closely like, hey, you know, what is faith a reliable means to truth, you know, that kind of thing. But he asked me, what do you think it would be like if, you know, we didn't have religion? You know, like, what would happen if we didn't have religion? And I was like, well, you know, I don't think that we would be without tribalism. I just think we would be without one more, you know, place that tribalism would thrive in. You know, like, it's not like we're going to all of a sudden just stop dividing ourselves based on things. But I do think that it would be one less thing that we have to, like, you know, further divide ourselves over.
An argument could be made that if tribalism was as strong as it was and religion disappeared, that we could be worse off, because at least with that one mentality of them all being together, they at least have that. Imagine the world with fucking 100,000 fucking different tribes all fighting against each other, you know. So you could even go down that route to defend it that way.
Sure. Yeah,
but
you could.
I know, but saying something like that and being open to something like that is something that I'm appreciating from you and your approach. There's too many angry atheists out there, so to speak, at the minute. There's an awful lot of people, and it's been very much annoying me. Is just they're screaming and shouting. They're doing what you're saying. You know, it's quoting this and quoting that, and you know, the definition of a word, and this must be approached this way, a scientific method, but there's no actual conversation. The street epistemology route. I have sort of issues with the mainstream street epistemology, but I get what you're trying to say. I think there's a slightly different, a better name for it, but I can't remember it at the minute.
It's like Socratic method. It's like Socratic method, pretty much. You know, just like asking questions, pretty much, you know, non-confrontational questions, in order to get, you know, to keep the friendly conversation going.
It's to get them to think for themselves. It's to get them to no, like I've said it multiple times, the reason I do this is not to find out what people believe, it's to find out why they believe that, and to push them down that route. You know, it's not to try and make them an atheist or anything like that, it's to make them a critical thinker. That's all I want. You know, if I'm not out to convert anyone, I'm out to only into being a critical thinker. The rest you do yourself. The rest is all on you. But we're critical thinking and thinking logically, being able to see what is actual evidence, because you've had a personal testimony that something, a personal experience, and I've had a personal experience. It doesn't mean when we discuss our personal testimonies to each other that we can convince each other of that. We don't convince each other of the story, but we've both experienced something, so we give that credit to the other person as well, because they've personally experienced something. But it doesn't give any repeatability. It doesn't give any, here, this is a box with what there's the evidence. Just open the box and look in. It's a fucking book. It's a fucking story you're giving me. Where's the evidence? What can be tested? I don't know. I don't want to sound like one of them angry atheists, but you get the point.
No, you're right, and I think I appreciate it when, you know, there are different approaches to it, because for some people, you know, obviously different approaches work. You know, some people are really science-minded, and I love learning about science, and I've been way more into it in the last 3 years than I ever have in my whole life. You know, like listening to biology audiobooks and things like that, you know, but it's not something that was the thing that turned my brain on in that direction. It wasn't that. It was more the philosophical, logical side of things, because I think for me, I came from like doing debate in high school. So that was something that kind of activated my brain, but for some other people it may be science. For some other people, it may be,
As a debater back in school, did you ever debate
Yeah.
religion? Did you ever debate from a Christian point of view?
No, we only did we did like cross-sex debate, so we were doing policy debate, so it was all like, oil drilling and things like that. It wasn't like anything from that standpoint, but like it wasn't philosophical debate. It was policy debate.
Policy debate. Well, that's what I mean. Nothing philosophical. It was all more policy.
No, exactly. But I'd come from a pretty fundamental background, so I knew a lot of I guess theology, fundamental theology, going into my deconversion to become an atheist. So that was, and a lot of people that I've talked to now as Christians were like, well, if you weren't raised fundamental, you probably would still be a Christian, because obviously that's not true. Obviously Noah's Ark isn't true and all that stuff. Well, it's like, yeah, but like, what makes that any different from, a dead guy coming back to life? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like it's the cherry picking thing where it's
totally.
Okay,
it's just, don't be a fundamentalist and sit with them. Just be a cultural and sit with us. You're still disbelieving, and it's still not right. And
right. It was like, at what point do you draw the line between what was literal in the Bible and what was metaphorical? And I think that was a big thing that I thought of too when I was looking into, obviously how the Bible was put together. That was a big thing that opened my eyes, because that was one thing I had never even considered as a Christian, was like how the Bible was actually written and put together. And
it's one of them things you just don't think about. You just accept.
That's right. And so it was one of those things I looked back on and I was like, well, wait a minute. Because when I started, like a couple years before I came out of Christianity, I started becoming a little bit more liberal and progressive in my Christianity. And I was like, well, Noah's Ark probably is a metaphor. Maybe Adam and Eve is probably a metaphor too. As I started to learn a little bit more about evolutionary biology and things like that. And then I was like, what else is a metaphor? And how do we know? That was a big question that I still ask, Christians that, like, how do you suss out what's a metaphor and what's not? Or is everything, because the thing is fundamentalists in a way stand on, and I say this with a lot of caution, they stand on firmer ground.
Broad brush.
Yeah.
Yep.
They stand on firmer ground in the sense of, like, if they are literalist and they take everything in the Bible literally, then they could be like, no, it's in the book, it's literal, and I believe it. And it's almost like it's easier for them.
Oh, yeah.
Then they don't have to do all these mental gymnastics and be like, well, actually, if you read the book like this, you'll see that it references this thing, and then they're doing mental backflips,
No, definitely. 100% agree with you there. I had something I was going to make, a point I was going to make, and then Godless Scummer turned up, and he doesn't. It's usually late for him because he's a postman. He has to get up early. So thanks for coming, Godless Scummer.
You can't stop the post. Thanks for coming.
No, you can't stop the post. Although most of the post in the UK now is just delivering fucking Amazon parcels. But oh yeah, I've totally put myself completely off track there. Yeah.
No, we were just talking about, deconversion.
Yeah, going down them routes and having people, make these excuses. You end up with fucking Calvinists. You end up with King James onlyists and things like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And as much as Christianity is dying as a whole, that's because more people, I don't think, are becoming more critically or logically thinking. I think as a mass we're realizing, there's a basic evidence that most people do now require, because we have grown up in a sort of sciencey basis world, and they accept Christianity to a cultural point. They will still say they're Christian. They won't take that extra step because, as you say, they're afraid of the mental gymnastics. But Christianity as a whole is just dying out. They're not losing Christianity, but they're having kids and not taking their kids to church. So the kids are the ones growing up as atheists. It's a second generational thing. Fundamentalism, on the other hand, is rising.
Yeah, and that's something I've been keeping my eye on. I went to a fundamental private Christian school for 4 years, from 7th to 10th grade, in the Bible Belt, and I did a video about that too. But I've talked to people, now, like years later, and a lot of them have either deconverted or have moved so far to the left within Christianity that, it is, like you said, purely almost cultural. Like they'll believe in the basic tenets, but unrecognizable from fundamentalism, and it's just, in America, especially, I think it's an American problem. Fundamentalism is on the rise in that sense, or at least it's in the showcase, or it's in the spotlight rather, a lot of the times here in the States.
Please don't time anyone out. Please don't time anyone out. He's an idiot, but let him talk. Don't time him out. Yeah, no. Later on in life, people grow up. You know, we are products of our parents. And up until the age of 18, 19, my mother always said, we're not an adult till you at least hit 21. You know, you need that 3 years of blowing off steam. Well, over here, you get your license, and you also get your liquor, and you're allowed to drink, and you get an awful lot of freedom at 18, you know. And then you go and have a good time, and you sit down, and then you relax, and you're like, fuck, I need to buy a house, I need to do this, you know, I need to make sure I'm not homeless. So we're not really adults till our mid-20s. Sure. You know, we accept everything that our parents have given us. Hopefully, I'm a parent, and I try my best to convey onto my wee girl all the best bits about me and a little bit of the bad. She's like, you know, but they're an improvement upon ourselves. They are there to continue us as a species, but our species will only get better if we take off the shackles of the things that hold us down. And as a human species, we will only move forward as one species, as one group of people. You know, it's...
I agree.
The tribalism, I mentioned this in a stream before. I think I watched a study on it one time, or read a paper or something. I can't remember what it was, but our brains are physically, when the study was done, maybe 2016, are physically only capable of matching 100 or so faces with names. You know, we haven't been able to grow outside of that because of our physical limitations. Cars and horses and things like that. That's only modern, you know, in the time scale of a human. With our kids that are growing up now, they are seeing 100 different people a day. They're watching YouTube. They're seeing this. They're, you know, and hopefully from that, it will expand our tribe and take our tribe from the people around you to the people around the world. You know, that's the internet has given us the ability to do that. I try to do that here. I see from having this conversation with you that you've got the same sort of ideas. The people in the chat, you know who I'm talking about, they have the same sort. We're trying to convince everybody, think critically, and we're all human. Yeah,
I agree. There's something that here in America, it's known as American exceptionalism, and I think it's one of the things that kind of holds us back in a way, because there's all this talk, especially coming from, you know, the right, about like globalism bad. And I get how there can be hurdles and problems with globalism in general, but like I think that to be against the idea of that is silly, because we have much bigger problems to come in the future if we as a species are going to survive in the long run. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things where like if we don't filter ourselves out, things are going to try to filter us out that aren't human, you know, whether it's environmental things or, you know, just the sun fucking dying eventually, you know what I mean? So it's like, if we ever want to even consider getting to that point where it's like, hey, there's going to come a point where if we make it, we're going to have to get off this rock, you know, like we're going to have to get off the earth at some point, you know. I mean, it sounds sci-fi and it sounds kind of wild, but it's something I like to think about, because it's like, no, if you really think long term.
Yeah, you know? No man, like you seen the intro, the background right now is actually the Milky Way galaxy. You know, it's actually the entire universe moving behind us in a scroll. This is the universe behind us that we all fucking live in. I'm big into space, big into that, and you're damn right, man. As a species, I think the limit that the Earth can, you know, and I know we're overpopulated at the minute, but you know, if you look into population streams and how they grow and down and grow and down, we're aiming to level out at about 11.5 million or 11.5 billion people, that before it starts to go down again as a whole. That's too much for this fucking planet. We're not going to be able to sustain that. We're struggling as it is worldwide, you know, obviously Western countries and stuff like that, but there is too many people in the world going without food, too many people in the world going without basic medical care, even in Western countries, even in America. You know, going online and meeting people from America and getting close to people from America and seeing what they go through with medical bills over there, It's insane. I seen a post on Twitter the other day, and it was a mum making a statement from her kid going, "Mum, did you update our insurance? Because I have a cool trick I want to show you." When he's at the playground, he's afraid of hurting himself. You know, it was,
Right.
obviously it's probably a playgate and twisting of words for a joke, but the point stands. You know.
It's a very serious thing. I mean, I was lucky enough. I have insurance, and I broke my face a year ago, almost to the day, and I had to get plates put in my face. And I was like, this would have been, I mean, I had to pay the deductible, of course, but above that, it would have been like like a $40,000 bill.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Like,
but no, it's
new
wild
genetic
here.
drug out over here, right? Well, a new genetic drug came out, and they recently used it within this last month over here on a baby for the very first time, and it costs 1.7 million per tablet, per dose, and
Whoa.
the wee baby gets it over here. And I think the way the agreement was in America, they agreed to something like not 1.7, something like. And again, I'm pulling numbers out of my ass. I'm making a point.
Yeah.
It was more expensive in America, so it's something like 1.9, and your insurance covers half of it. So, your kid's got this genetic disease, you still have to come up with over half a fucking million or $800,000. So your kid's not getting it,
Yeah, no, it's and again, that goes back to trying to find out what our goals are. And I get a lot of this from people from the theist side making like morality arguments, right? Where it's like they try to define morality as, authoritative or absolute or objective from God's point of view or from the Bible or whatever. But, they fail to understand that it's real simple. Like, it's way simpler than you think it is, and that's why we have so many issues with like human well-being in the world still, is because people don't understand that they don't understand the veil of ignorance, for instance. They don't understand what if you were like re-rolled into the world and you spawned in at any random place on Earth, would you be happy with that? Or would you be okay with that, or would you want to stay where you are? Like, if I asked myself that, I'd be like, hell no. Like, I got lucky. I was born in a very privileged position compared to a lot of other people around the world. So I would not take that reroll, but we should be building a society where you would be okay to take that reroll. You know what I mean?
Everybody should be happy. It should be fair for everybody, regardless of gender, sex, color of your skin, or anything like that. Everybody. And that's the point I'm making, if I can, with the not timing out on Tangelo. The man's spouting. Love you, Antangelo. I'm not even going to go down that route, but there's disagreements, right? But he's allowed to have his disagreements. In a world where all the Christians ran everything, we wouldn't be allowed to have our disagreements. And that's evidenced by the society we live in. The ostracizing that happens when you announce yourself as an atheist. You don't think like me, you're gone. Unfortunately for them, fortunately for us, we're not like that. You want to say what you want to say, you can say it. People can disagree with you. We're allowed to disagree with you. You're not allowed to take control. You're not allowed to force us. And especially in America, there's a lot of fundamentalists, especially when Trump was there, making rules, making regulations, telling women what they can do with their bodies, controlling a lot of things definitive off the Bible. And one person, 2 people, 3 people, my goodness, you need at least 100 people in a local vote to even be fucking heard, never mind sway anything. And if we can use the internet to build connections and put people together, when I started this, I knew 1 person in Georgia. Now I knew 3. Okay, it's not a fucking voice, but there's now 3 people in Georgia that we can use to make votes. So not use, but you get the point. It's putting people together we from all over the world, and we'll only be heard as a group. We'll only be heard as a mass. So, thank you again for doing what you're doing, Sam. Really do appreciate it. And any questions for Sam, start throwing them in. We're going to be rounding it up and moving to the after party. So if anybody wants in on Tangelo, I don't know if I'll have you in tonight. I'm going to leave that down to Sam. We'll have a chat. Jesus Unfollower, you're more than welcome to jump in. Haven't had a chat with you yet. And Dave has the link. Anyone else needs the link, send me a shout out on probably Twitter. I've got it open. Discord I might see, I'll double check, but not that often. But reach out to me, we'll get you a link, and we'll get you in. So, any questions you have for Sam, the son of the dog? Do you actually have a dog?
I do. That's the mascot for the Son of Dog is our Pomeranian Juno. Yeah.
Have we been
She's,
blessed by the Son of Dog tonight? Can we get a blessing? Can we get a
Yes.
blessing?
I wasn't Catholic.
Splash us some holy water, you know.
Yeah, a little bit of holy water. You know, Christ be with you.
Future of the channel. Your mainly edited videos. You've had fun tonight on the live. Has this been your first live?
It has been, and I really appreciate it. I really thank you so much for having me. I really love doing these things. It's what I want to move towards. You know, even on my personal channel. You asked me
That's what
the
I'm
future
asking.
is.
Yeah.
I want to do more. I'd like to eventually do some debates. I want to do more conversations, maybe even like epistemological conversations with Christians, with theists in general. Keep on doing skits, keep on doing music, keep on doing topics. You know, I kind of want to be an educating / entertaining kind of voice, you know, that's friendly and you know, wants to encourage reason and conversation.
Why is Lucy not a moderator? Fix that. Hi, Lucy. Yes. So, what we did mention just before we come on, and what I will end on before we move to the after show, is as you say, you want to be an entertainer. You want to come out there. You've been, you know, for someone who's a little bit of an introvert, you still do like that going out there and stuff. And have you ever got any feedback about what you're doing or the way you look or anything like that, Sam? No, any stories about looking silly or anything like that?
Oh, well, if you're referring to what I think you're referring to, yeah, man, YouTube commenters can be wild. Let me just say that.
I don't look at YouTube comments unless they're good. To get a heart, you ignore everything else.
You know, I try to respond to all my comments unless they're like clearly trolls.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one guy was just you know, he kept on mentioning how I was very smart and I probably should be a lawyer or maybe a money lender or you know, and then he moved on to you know, my hair and the fact that I had a big nose, and you know, he was kind of dropping these anti-Semitic dog whistles, which is hilarious because I'm not Jewish at all, like not even at all.
Yeah.
And you know, it just goes to show you that you know, bigotry just goes hand in hand with ignorance, you know. So you know, I didn't let it get to me. I just kind of trolled him, right? You know, he wasn't a troll. I think he was just angry. My video made him really upset. So in a way, I count that as a win because he didn't have any good argument against my divine hiddenness video. So he just kind of went off the rails.
Snowflakes.
Yeah, he went off the rails and I just went with it. You know, I'm just like, I'm having fun. You know, the fact that you're gonna feed my algorithm is just, you know, that's great. You know. I don't
it's
care.
like 62 downvotes and they're all sitting going, "Fuck you!" and you're like, 62 people watched this video and interacted. Yay! Right. Well,
Yeah,
on that note, yeah, shout out to everybody that generally helps the channel, all the members, all the Patreons, everybody that came tonight. Massive shout out to Sam for coming and doing this. Yeah, if you haven't, go and watch his videos. They're not fucking an hour long like this. They're short enough, they're sweet enough. You'll get through it in 2 days. There's not that fucking many. He's already huge. Alright? He's already huge. So, you see the musical instruments in the background, you know there's going to be good production. You know there's going to be good stuff. Hit the like button, do all that. And yeah, we'll be back in 10-15 minutes. Take a piss, go get a cup of tea, do whatever you need to do. And haven't booked it yet, but it'll be here. It'll be here in a couple of minutes. So, on that note, again, Sam, thank you very much. And everybody, remember, think for yourselves, people.